want a loan to start a small business.
Small business.
Small business.
I work for a small business.
A small business.
I'm saving money to buy a small business.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Small Business Survival Guide podcast, where entrepreneurs from the pest control world share their tips to help your business thrive in the real world. Join us as we break down the business game and steer you towards success. I'm joined with my co-host Kahlee.
Hello.
Kahlee, how you going?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. We're still nailing the intro.
Yeah.
Today's episode is about turning criticism into opportunity. So I guess we're talking about complaints handling and how we go through that process.
Okay.
For us, we now do over 1,000 jobs a month, which means that even if we're operating at 99% perfection, we could still be getting 2 or 3 complaints a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a complaint was our termite treatment's completely failing and our house is falling down, that would be an alarming complaint.
Yep.
What we're talking about is usually to do with communication or expectation. So the client was thinking X and the technician may have done Y, or maybe we were late with something, or something often very minor is the complaints that we would deal with. But they are opportunities to improve. And so I don't look at complaints as a concern. If they're repetitive and we're not getting on top of them, that's when we, I guess, get a bit more concerned. So when it comes to complaints, I actually wanted to highlight that we made a 3-part mini-series a couple of years ago now on complaints handling. So I'm sure Oscar will chuck the links up or do what he does. There's some interesting videos, and I'm sure we made them a little bit funny, a little bit creative.
Yeah.
That really helps with the process. You're thinking back, remembering, yep, some classic work there.
Yeah. Black and white
Black
pictures, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So when it comes to a complaint, it could be something as simple as, the technician didn't do this. I thought it might be what he was going to do. I don't know. And the key part to us, that's why we stress with our training when we bring on new guys, new admin or techs, is we have that consistent process because our clients have come to expect that when we get to site, we're going to do X, Y, Z. Even if ABC worked at the last place, our clients expect, this. And so that's what we like to do, generally speaking. So the first thing we always do with a complaint is we want to handle it quickly. We want to be able to respond. If it was an email, we'd want to acknowledge it. If it's a phone call, we'd want to deal with it straight away. And I guess the important part is to acknowledge that they've got their complaint and appreciate it. We want to thank them for bringing it to our attention. It's much better than if they're concerned about something without bringing it to us, then it can become an even bigger issue than it needs to be. So acknowledging it and then asking the right questions to understand it and listening. Often just doing that is what...
thing.
And sometimes that complaint can actually not need anything from us except that time of listening. But when it does need actioning, it depends on if it's a simple fix, we can resolve it. If we needed to get somebody to come back out to site to understand their concern in person, then we can do that. The big thing for me is around we don't want to point the finger and blame and all of that. The immediate thing you want to do is just resolve the issue or acknowledge and address the issue. So if we had concerns around a technician or a process or training, then we kind of want to tackle that secondary. We want to just work out what the client's problem is.
Yeah.
And so with our process, part of our ISO accreditation, our quality management, we've got a continuous improvement register. So when we do get a complaint or a concern, we'll register it there straight away. Part of that means that our whole management team will get notified of the concern, and then we make sure that we've got that pipeline process that, one, we've addressed and actioned that particular issue, and then we've reviewed it to work out what the root cause of it was, why did it fall down.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, what are we doing to prevent it from happening again? It's no good in resolving that client's issue if it pops up again next week or next month.
Yep.
I wanted to talk about not so much the specific issues, but around that process of how we resolve it. So the first one with the client is, I would say 95% of our issues are around communication breakdown.
Yeah.
Is maybe we said we'd do something and we didn't do it. Maybe we didn't communicate well enough. We didn't give them all the information. An example could be, I guess, I didn't want to get into examples, but one example might be as simple as if we've done a pest service and we've offered a service period and the technician hasn't explained, we've treated the house for ants, for example. It doesn't mean you won't get ants in the yard. So if we got a service call to say, I've still got ants in my yard, and then our admin team are explaining, well, that's not covered, then we're going to have an upset client because it wasn't communicated clearly. So,
Yeah. Expectations. So what we set as a precedent in the office when we're speaking with the client versus what the technician discusses and reinforces on site once he or she gets there, that needs to be the same. And often it won't be. Or the client will misconstrue one word that the administration said versus the tech team. And it creates that expectation. What word am I looking for?
yeah.
Not balanced, not met, I guess.
Yeah, they're not aligned with what we're offering and what they're expecting.
Yeah, it can be like that. It can be as simple as we're getting occasional complaints around if someone gets charged a merchant fee on a credit card now. We put it in an email, we confirm it while we're on the phone generally. It's just everyday normal thing now, but we still get people that have an expectation that they don't get charged. And if they don't want to know about it, if they overlook it, then we're having to deal with simple complaints like that, even though we've put everything in place to try and avoid it.
And so with any complaint, the goal is to solve the issue so the client's happy. And what we find is 9 times out of 10, when we resolve that issue, some people it might be enough for them to go, well, I won't use that company again. But 9 times out of 10, they're like, that is what I wanted. I wanted it to be, how they responded.
Yep.
For me personally, mistakes happen. It's about how a company responds.
Yeah.
If I have an issue with another company for whatever it might be. And so because we respond well, we have those clients, 9 out of 10 will just come back to us year on year because we've offered that great service even when things weren't perfect.
Yeah.
So the goal is to solve it. You can't always solve it, and it depends if the client's being reasonable or not.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? They can come emotionally charged.
That's right. And so normally listening to them and taking the time, they might calm down if they're upset. But commercially, you often have to make a decision, even if you've done nothing wrong. I mean, if it was a communication breakdown, you have to accept responsibility for that. Even if you've done things perfectly, the client's being unreasonable. Sometimes you have to weigh up, do you just fix the problem even if it costs you because it's your brand and reputation at stake?
I think, what you said there, commercially, a lot of people, even personally when we deal with our expectations not being met if we're doing something at home or even at work, if we're not receiving or getting what we thought we were getting, we're quite reasonable about it. But people don't make commercial decisions. It's just no. And you're sitting there going, but why? It's just no.
Yeah.
And as a business, like you say, you do have to think about brand and reputation. If it's going to take you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, $50 to go and fix something, is it worth that person, preventing that person from going to their family, to their friends and saying, never use these people again?
Exactly right, because I don't have the stats, but I remember it's like if you do a great job, people will recommend you to 10 people through different conversations. If you do a bad job, they'll complain to about 50 people.
Yeah. People like to complain more than acknowledge great stuff.
That's right. So you got to weigh up if you can't fix that problem, if you refuse to fix that problem when you could easily fix it, you could be doing yourself more damage than losing the hour to fix the issue or something like that. But
there are certainly circumstances where you take a step back, look at the situation and know that you've done everything possible. You've done the process, you've covered yourself, you've done everything that you could possibly do to make this person happy, and it's not going to make them happy. And it does, for me, takes a lot for me to be okay to go, you know what, this one I have to let go because there's nothing we can do and we've done everything right. And that will still affect us. We know that they will go to their 50 friends and family or whatever and say something. And for me personally, you want to make sure everyone is happy with the service. We provide great service, world-class service, as we say. But there's always going to be those people that you can't keep happy or
if we've done everything we feel
Yeah.
is reasonable.
So that's
Then-
something we've had to I've had to learn that sometimes it's okay for people not to be okay.
Yeah. And fortunately, it's rare.
Yeah.
Most people
Yeah.
say you follow the process. But either way, I think it's if you have a consistent framework around the way you respond, the way you listen, the way you attempt to resolve. It
Yes. And I think
normally it's smooth process.
smooth, but it's also the people that deal with it. I think we have a reasonable management team and us that can look at a situation and go, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that we're both okay with the outcome?
And I think the step I wanted to get to next was around a little bit around the team. So often it's easy to resolve that issue with the client. The bigger piece is, I guess, analysing what went wrong and how you fix it, prevent it from happening again. So I've always had a really clear process of understanding that there's three areas that you need to look at when you get a complaint or a breakdown in a process, and that is looking at the process itself. Is it have you got clear steps 1 through to 10, and is there gaps with it? So, for example, if we did a pest service and we're getting complaints, like have we given them the right information with the admin? Is the technician setting the right expectation on site, doing the right service, all of those things? Mm-hmm. And if you identify a gap with the process, then I'm always reluctant to go to the team member that might have been involved in that incident and give them a hard time for it, because you could see that it could fall down because of the process. So a really important part for me is you always start looking at the process before you do anything else. And then if you're happy that the process is good, then the next step is to look at the team members involved and look at it. Is it a training thing? Do they need more support? Do they need more training? Because we've got the process there, and if we follow it, we don't have those issues. So we look at it more of a training thing. But then if you've ticked both of those boxes, you're happy the process is there and you've spent ample time training this person, then that's when you need to look at it and go, well, is this an attitude issue?
Yeah.
Is this team member unhappy? Have they got stuff going on personally at home that's creating their inability to do the job well? Or are they kicking rocks for whatever reason? And is there something malicious about what they're doing, which again, fortunately is very rare.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do it the other way. You know, you don't want to, the client complains and the first thing you do is jump down the team member's throat going, you haven't made an effort or you haven't done the right thing. What are you doing? If you assume it's attitude, then you often end up making yourself look silly and you're just going to upset that team member and not get the best out of them. So I think it's really important for me. You always follow that guideline. You look at the process first, then training, and then leave attitude last.
Yeah. And we can sit there and go, oh, no, we'd never do that. But in the moment, if you've got someone getting very cranky at you saying that your employee or technician or whatever industry you're in has done X, Y, and Z, and you are sitting there going, oh, my goodness, and getting caught up in the emotion of their issue as well, it's very easy to hop off the phone and speak to the technician before actually investigating what's actually going on because you're just in it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. And so I think if you tick off those other two and it is an attitude issue, I thought we could maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's
'cause
always the harder part.
The no doubt team members, your team are your greatest asset. They're what create the business.
Yep.
And then they can be your greatest headache when you've got those few that aren't performing and creating those headaches and issues. And sadly, you can spend 80% of your time on those few people that are creating the headaches, and often you don't get to spend enough time encouraging and motivating and appreciating those that are doing a great job.
Yeah.
But if we talk about trying to address those issues with a team member, another example that comes to mind is, let's say a technician was 10 minutes late to a job and the client was upset because they were kept waiting 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If I called Jono, we don't have a Jono here, and I said, the client's upset because you're 10 minutes late, because we're stuck in the detail, Jono could go, oh, it was traffic, it was busy, I was only 10 minutes, what's the big deal? And then you kind of get stuck arguing about 10 minutes. For me, again, it's really important that you try not to get too stuck in the detail. It's more chunking it up to the context. And so the easy context with this example is, well, we have a quality service that we're offering, a premium service, and the client's expectation is, that we're going to be on time, and we've let the client down. And if I'm talking to Jono about, well, are you in agreement that we want to offer a premium service, a quality service, and we want to meet the client's expectations? If Jono says, yeah, of course, that's what I want to do, then it's like, great, we're both aligned, so let's work backwards. Now, you can see that even though we're only 10 minutes late, it's a minor issue. It might have just been a one-off. You acknowledge that we haven't met what we've agreed on in that quality service, and he's got nowhere to go. If he's just agreed that he wants to offer a quality service and he hasn't, and it's only been 10 minutes, then normally they can take that feedback on board and go, yeah, I get it now, and they'll improve it for next time.
Yeah.
Of course, on the flip side, if Jono says, I don't care about offering a good service, well, guess where Jono's going to be next week, looking on Seek. Yeah. So it's really good to chunk it up and make sure that you're aligned with the values, which I don't know if we've discussed that in the podcast. I've done it in a lot of other videos, but making sure we're clear with our values and the behaviours that we accept as a team. And then whenever there's a complaint, linking it back to, whatever happened, did it align with those?
And that does take a bit of training because, it's very easy to get stuck in the detail. Me, being female and detail orientated, it is very hard for me not to get stuck in the detail. But something that you've taught me over the years is if you get stuck in the detail, be ready to have an argument because you're just opening the door to the other person to respond to you, to tell you that you're wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, exactly. It was like the example, if Jono's excuse is there was lots of traffic, I couldn't account for the roadworks, that's not my fault. But it's not what it's about. It's not about being 10 minutes late. It's not even a big deal if, you were 10 minutes late once, it's like you move on from it. But if you're not aligned at that context level of the values, then you work out pretty quickly who you want in your team. And
that's a minor issue. I'd be concerned if we had to deal with something like that. But
because
I'd certainly be saying, well, you're heading there, so make sure you make it up to the client because
you get to deal
you're
with
going
it.
there. Yeah.
So I guess we sort of touched on the process. We talked about we've got that continuous improvement register. On the flip side, we've got over 400 Google reviews, so we're always encouraging our clients to give us great feedback because we don't want to just know of the negative. We want them to be giving great feedback. So, and I think it's reinforcing both to the team. So we have a process where if someone does a Google review, we throw it in our Teams chat. So everyone's seeing pretty much every day this great feedback, which really reinforces that we're doing a great job. And that's going to make it easier when you do get the complaint to put it in perspective that, like say 99% of customers are loving what we're doing. But also with that register and that record and knowing that we've addressed it, we're able to look back at that feedback and know that we're heading in the right direction, offering a better service year on year.
And we do just keep evolving. So as the bigger we get, the more processes we have to put in place or make sure, like the quality management and things. As we've been doing all of that, our processes evolve. So a process that worked for us 2 years ago now doesn't work, or it does, but it needs to be tweaked. And I think that's where we learn or see what we need to change much more easily, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Keeping the record and being able to look back at what's happening makes it much easier to make those decisions to how you adapt and improve.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, something like that.
The last thing around, I guess, the complaints is even when you get that person that's being unreasonable and you want to call them a name, maintaining that professionalism, you want to still really, you never want to forget about your brand and your reputation. So ideally, you maintain that professionalism right through. As much as sometimes you don't want to.
Yep.
You do have to think about the bigger picture, and often it means being the bigger person, and sometimes that hurts, biting your tongue or having to put up with something that's unfair. But if you're looking at your business for the long term, then that's often what you have to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It can be hard, as you say.
Yep.
But certainly don't want to be caught saying something when the phone's not hung up or something like that.
No.
Not that that's ever happened, but yes. Some people, like we say, you just can't please everyone. Not that you can make anyone happy, but you want to do your best to make sure that.
Resolve that issue.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hopefully you got something out of that that's helpful. We'll do our usual tradition. I'm sure there's another question coming up from Oscar.
Oh, hey guys.
Oh my God, where'd
How
you
you
come from?
How you guys do it? So, Tom just before mentioned the 3-part complaint series on our YouTube channel that everyone should definitely check out. But the question is related to YouTube. Tom and Kahlee, what is our most popular video on our YouTube channel?
Gee, that's a tough one. Well, I'll let you go first.
I thought it was the interview.
Shouldn't have let
Video.
you go first. I was going to say that one, but I didn't think you'd
Well,
guess
I'm
it.
never right, so
Yeah.
pick something else.
I thought the A Guide to a Great Interview, I thought did do well.
I was going to say the carp video, but that's TikTok,
That was the
isn't
TikTok.
it?
TikTok. If you're
Yeah.
on TikTok, then and you're
something
interested
about
in carp,
carp.
then check out our video. Yeah. I can't think of any other videos, so
Oh, you can be wrong with me then.
that could be up there. So yeah. No, I got nothing. So I would have said interview, but she beat me to the punch. So
Well, it is a guide to a great job interview in pest management. Well done.
One.
Hell yes.
Was that 1 out of 10 or something?
Yep.
Yeah,
Let's
wow.
go there. No, well, completely unrelated to the topic, but that's another good video you should check out. That's quite funny with some of Oscar's work.
What,
so.
the carp video? Or- Tom loves his carp.
Apparently, yes.
No, the guide to a good interview.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was another good, cracking bit of fun that we did a few years back. So
Yeah, it was fun.
cool. Well, that about does it for this episode, guys. So thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you on the next one.
Okay, bye.
I want a loan to start a small business.
Small business.
For a small business.
I'm saving money to buy a small business.